Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Podesta. Thank you for joining us. President Trump announced new tariffs on Chinese goods Friday in response to the tariffs China slapped on U.S. products earlier. The president said he is raising U.S. tariffs on China by 5 percentage points to 15% on some goods, 30% on others. The escalating trade war is ringing alarms on Wall Street. The Dow plunged more than 600 points Friday. Weijia Jiang reports.
The markets quickly plummeted following President Trump's threat to escalate trade tensions with China, ending 623 points down. And late this afternoon, he followed through with even tougher tariffs of his own. The tit-for-tat spat unfolded this morning after China declared new tariffs on $75 billion of U.S. products, retaliation for the administration's tariffs on $300 billion of Chinese imports, set to go into effect in September and December. Just last week, the president doubted Beijing would respond at all.
I don't think they'll retaliate, but if they did, we have the ultimate form of retaliation.
Earlier today, Mr. Trump also tweeted, "Our great American companies are hereby ordered to immediately start looking for an alternative to China." The White House could not explain what authority Mr. Trump has to interfere with private businesses. The conflict with China piles on to a new report that reveals the economy created 500,000 fewer jobs than initially thought in 2018 and early 2019.
It just makes it more likely that a recession will come sooner rather than later if we have all these pressures from the trade conflict spilling out.
President Trump denies the trade war is hurting the economy and blames volatility on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell for not lowering interest rates. In a speech today, Powell said, "Setting trade policy is the business of Congress and the administration, not that of the Fed." That prompted the president to ask, "My only question is, who is our bigger enemy, Jay Powell or Chairman Xi?"
Weijia Jiang joins us now from the White House. The president, Weijia, has been clamoring the Federal Reserve for months to cut interest rates. Why has he been pushing the strategies so hard, and why has the Fed resisted?
You know, the chairman, Jerome Powell, says there's only so much he can do, and what timing he has to elaborate on that. He actually delivered a previously scheduled speech today, and he said the central bank would do what it could and act as an appropriate measure to sustain the expansion amid a trade war. So he is leaving the door open to a possible interest rate cut, but certainly not immediately like the president is demanding, and not these dramatic numbers that the president is demanding, because he says the role of the Fed has limits. And even though monetary policy can be a very useful tool for consumers, it does not provide a settled rule book for international trade. And so, again, he feels that, you know, it's not just like he can turn a switch and change the rates here. He has to do within the confines of what he believes he can. So President Trump here, I think, you know, you've seen him time and time again on Twitter during spontaneous interviews and gaggles with reporters. He continues to hammer away, as you mentioned, because, you know, I think he doesn't want to admit any blame for the weakening economy. He insists that this trade war with China has nothing to do with it. And ultimately, if the economy does slow, he'll be able to point the finger at the Fed and say, "I told you so. I tried to tell you to cut the rates. That would have, you know, saved us from the situation we're in now." And so, you know, I expect that could happen depending on just how bad the numbers get.
Yes, the president is certainly applying pressure. The question is, will Jerome Powell cave? So this tit-for-tat tariff war, we know the president raised tariffs today, just made the announcement a few hours ago. What does it indicate about the president's priorities?
You know, President Trump, since he was a candidate, promised he would be tough on China. And I think that, you know, at this point, he is in way too deep. This trade war has been going on now for so many months. They've tried a dozen times to have talks that have failed to produce, you know, a concrete measure to wrap up these, you know, escalating tensions that we continue to see. So the president insists that even though there might be consequences along the way, and you know, certain groups may hurt, he believes it really will be worth it because, you know, he launched this because he was criticizing China for stealing intellectual property from the U.S. He always has said that the playing field was not level when it comes to trade with China because the deficit is so big. And so he believes in the long run it will be the best thing for the country and for consumers. At the same time, he has acknowledged that along the way it will hurt. In fact, he delayed one set of tariffs until December 15th because he wanted to give people an opportunity to do their Christmas shopping and not be hurt by these tariffs. And so, you know, we see that he recognizes it could be an issue for people. And at this point, the question is, when will he de-escalate?
And we know he's heading to the G7 summit this weekend. Can we expect trade to be a big topic of discussion there?
Yes, absolutely. And that's because as a result of this particular trade battle, the prospects for worldwide economic growth have weakened. And that is a big priority for the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who's the host. It's a big priority on the agenda. And so, you know, the president will likely face many questions about what he plans to do to de-escalate this conflict, to get out of this growing trade war, not only for China and for the U.S., but for the entire global economy. On top of that, we know he has bilateral meetings scheduled with every other leader there, and there are individual trade deals that he is still trying to hash out. For example, he's trying to get Congress to ratify the USMCA, which replaces NAFTA eventually, and so he's talking to Germany as well about trade. And so, yes, it will definitely be a big topic of discussion, but there's a lot of other things they have to get to as well.
A lot of conversations. We'll see what comes out of that summit. Weijia Jiang, thank you.
Thank you.